again, thank you all very much for being here. Our goal for today is going to be to dive into the experiences of our esteemed panelists. We're going to learn about their daily routines and explore specific topics within their companies, their roles. We'll hear a little bit about their experiences. We'll hear about the things that they're passionate about. We're going to start with some general questions before we move into anything that's more specific. We're also going to have a little more focused questions for each panelist, but we also will have a time and floor for all of you here to ask your questions as well. Excuse me. So first, we're going to go over to our panelists, have them introduce themselves. Panelists, if you forget who you are, we do have your bios just behind you, but we'll go ahead and start with Sherry here.
My name is Sherry Duncun. I'm an information security specialist. I've been in cybersecurity for the last 5 years. I've done identity access management, I've done vulnerability management. Right now, I'm currently working with a company called Imagine General Partners. And right now, I'm working with their standard policy procedures. It's a startup company. So right now, I'm creating a lot of policies for them. I've been in information technology for over 15 years. I've worked with PayPal, healthcare. I think that's it.
Hey, my name is Caleb. I am a Security Operations Center Manager for Kudelski Security. So we're an MSSP, so we provide managed security to numerous different companies all throughout the world. So the company I work for is actually global. We've got 4 security centers throughout the world. We have 2 over in Switzerland, we have 1 in Madrid, Spain, and then we have 1 here in Phoenix. I've been with the company for coming up on 3 years this time around. So I actually attended GCU for my bachelor's. While I was doing so, I had the opportunity to work as a student worker in the information security team here at GCU, now called GCE. And then after that, I actually got an internship working for Kudelski Security. I did that for about 4 months, and then towards the end of my degree, I decided that I wanted to do something very adventurous with my life and completely changed course and became a police officer for the city of Phoenix for 3 years. And then transitioned into the reserve unit there, which allowed me to come back to cybersecurity full time. Kudelski Security was hiring a security analyst position again, so I started off there as an entry level position, working their afternoon shift. Did that for about a year. Promoted into a shift lead position where I was responsible for training new analysts and just kind of be overseeing the day-to-day operations of the team. And then transitioned into a tier 2 role, so a little bit more client facing, getting to work on some projects, do some tuning of the different technologies that we supported. And then shortly after that, the opportunity opened for me to become the operations manager, and I've been doing that for just about a year now.
Hello. Is this on? Is it working? Cool. My name is Anthony. I am currently a cybersecurity engineer at Boeing. My main role focuses on firewalls, VPNs, and incident response for anything within the company that affects those things. I also teach here at GCU, so if you take cybersecurity, you'll probably have me in one of your classes. I started in technology in a managed service provider and as a system admin, and I kind of worked my way up to networking, network security, and then over to cybersecurity, but I have about 8 years of experience. Yeah, that's about it. Thank you.
Okay, so question for everyone: how did you get started in your field? What positions led you to your current job or position? I know Caleb, you kind of mentioned already. Well, we can reiterate the points. So, how did you all get started in your fields, and what positions led you to your current jobs? And we'll, since we had Anthony end, we'll have him start this time.
Well, I really started in school, and then as I was pursuing a degree, I was able to land a job in system administration. And then after that, I moved over to Cox Communications, which, if you're not from here, it's an internet and cable service provider. So I worked in their network operations center, and then I moved to network security, and then finally over to Boeing in their cybersecurity department. And yeah, the whole time I've continued education though while working. So as my education and knowledge progressed, I was also able to progress in my career.
So similar to Anthony, I also started, like I said, while I was here at GCU. Before starting with the information security team here, I actually started in help desk. And so I know that's one of the student worker positions that you all have probably seen if you've been looking is the IT support and help desk. And help desk was awesome because it gave me a lot of the experience of customer experience that I was lacking. Getting to work with mostly faculty and employees to help troubleshoot the computer issues that they were having. And some of it was a lot more urgent because it would be professors inside of a classroom having tech issues and they needed something, right away. And I got to go in there in front of a room full of students, some of them I know, and try to troubleshoot this as fast as I can. And so that gave me a lot of the foundational skills that I needed for working in a fast paced security operations center. From there, like I said, I transitioned to the information security team and then into Kudelski Security as an intern. With all of those, my encouragement to all of you would be just find something in technology to get started in, regardless of what it is. Like a lot of people don't want to do help desk because they think that's just, it's not beneficial. But a lot of the things inside of help desk are so fundamental to what you need for security, from troubleshooting user access, locked out user accounts, and just having that understanding of how a organization's like structure works, especially with the changes to cloud and O365 and how all the different systems interact. Help desk gives you a lot of that fundamental knowledge. So I would definitely recommend, just trying to find whatever you can to just get going and get started in the field.
I have a degree in telecommunication management. Um, Before I got into cybersecurity, I did a lot with VMware and Citrix. So when I got hired on with PayPal, they wanted someone to understand the basics, Windows, architecture. So um, I knew that. So then I got hired on as an information security specialist, and I started doing vulnerability management. And it was crazy because there was this thing called Log4j. I'm quite sure you guys remember that. And it was a nightmare. And we had to do discovery and discovery and discovery. But it taught me a lot about, the different things that could be hacked. So it was a great opportunity. And then I moved over to Honor Health and I did identity access management. We did role-based access. We've done centralized application. And now at Imagine Partners, they don't have anyone in cyber infosec. I am the only person. So I'm making sure that we are secured. Our first line of defense is protect our users, our identity. The second line of defense is our data. So it's a great company, and I'm helping them learn how to secure their environment.
Thank you very much for sharing the different paths that you all had to get to your current position. Truly appreciate that. The next thing, focusing a little bit on your daily routine and passion. I always like to ask people, what does it look like to do what you are doing? So, can you each share a little bit as to what your normal routine looks like and what aspects make you passionate about the positions you hold? Because so far, I'm scared about everything you all mentioned you do on a daily basis. So, please let me know how you come back the next day.
Man, oh man. With us, like I said, it's a startup company. So we have a lot of mom and pop shops. And phishing is like horrible. And right now I'm doing a training campaign for them to teach them how to protect us. And it's so important to train ourselves, our mom, our dad, and everybody. So right now, that's one project that I'm working on. My day to day is, of course, check your email, see what happened over the night. Hopefully, everything is good. Um, Constantly looking at the data, looking at reports. There's certain projects that we're working on. Like right now, I'm doing an access review to see what people have access to. Rule number one: least restrictive. Everyone doesn't need access to everything. Um, I'm also doing role-based access as well. Um, Centralized application. So what happens with there is that whenever someone gets onboarded, we want to make sure they get offboarded, and whatever they have access to, we want to make sure the access get removed as well. So that's why it's important for us to do application centralization because we have like thousands of applications. So um, that's just a little bit.
Yeah, so it's crazy to answer this question because I really don't have much of a routine with work. It's being inside of an MSSP and specifically a SOC. You never really know what the day is going to hold. So I would like to say my day just kind of goes as planned with my schedules and the calls that I have with a lot of internal stakeholders to help things just improve. But honestly, most of my day just changes every minute, and I'm working on a different escalation from a different customer, or an analyst will come to me with a question about a security event they're looking at, and they need a second pair of eyes. So really, a lot of my day is just kind of rolling with the punches of what's happening, and just being prepared to help out wherever I can. So in this role, I'm doing a lot less technical aspects than I've ever been doing because I'm in that management realm now. But for me, what I really find rewarding is getting to help and mentor and coach the new analysts that are coming in and joining the team. One particular one that I really remember is he was transitioning from a career as a teacher and wanted to get into cybersecurity, interviewed with me, and didn't have the fundamental knowledge he needed at the time. But I gave some recommendations of what he could do to prepare. Had another position 3 months later, he applied again and killed the interview and had done every single thing that I had mentioned. And he was able to show it and prove what he had done. And that was really rewarding and kind of just refreshed my enjoyment of being in a management role, because a lot of times I do miss the technical aspects and getting to be the one doing the hands-on investigation. And so little things like that are really what keep me excited and passionate about what I'm doing.
Well said. Um, I'll be honest, about 70% of my day is meetings. So uh, expect that a lot in these positions. You're going to be on meetings about projects, timelines, um, what happened the week prior, what's going on in the coming week, changes that the company's going through, changes that your team has to be aware of. Um, and then the rest of the time is really spent on those projects that we talk about. So we get a lot of user tickets and a lot of tickets from partner companies that we work with about their systems not interacting with ours right. How do we get it fixed? As security evolves and as applications evolve, we have a lot of trainings that we do with different vendors like Palo Alto or CyberArk. And then just a little bit of time is actually spent like working where we can actually get down and actually do these projects and stuff. A lot of times a project timeline might be a week or it might be up to a year long. Um, but just because it's a week, realistically, we're going to do that in like 10 minutes in the little free time we have. But uh, yeah, it's not always a glamorous job with your routine, but it's definitely worth it once you see the results and see the impacts that it has on your company, on how you keep your company safe.
Thank you very much, everyone, for sharing. So another question that we want to ask about is the ideal personality or skills that we might need and the career paths that you all shared about and your current positions. So there's always two sides of a coin. I know none of you all use cash likely, but coins have two sides. So there's obviously the soft skills that people need, right? The personalities that might fit in the roles, and there's also the technical skills. You might have someone who's very great at speaking in front of people, but if they don't know how to unmute on Zoom, that's an issue. So what are some of the personalities that you believe that fit most in the different careers paths that you are in, and then what are some of those specific technical skills that are some of the most important?
Yeah, that's a great question because people skills are needed in this field a lot more than most people think. Because even if you are fully remote, like I said, there's a lot of meetings, and you're going to talk to managers, directors, managers from other companies, even government employees sometimes. So you have to be able to interact with them well. So speaking is a uh, very high sought skill, and being able to translate the technical jargon to people who are not technical, because there's a lot of people in finance that you're going to have to talk to. There's a lot of people, who work in construction that you might have to talk to, and they're just trying to get their tablet to work. So you have to be able to, I wouldn't say dumb it down, but you have to be able to bring down the high level thoughts into something that, maybe if your parents technologically challenged, like something that they would understand or something that your grandparents might understand in a way that they didn't grow up with tech. Um, and as far as technical skills go, honestly, it depends so much on your area of interest. I do infrastructure, like I said, firewalls and VPN and stuff. But If you like policy, then the skills that you're going to need are going to be much different than the skills that I need. Or if you like digital forensics or penetration testing and like ethical hacking, those skills are very, very different from each other. So I would say do some research into the area that you like and that you find interesting, and then look at job applications that are posted online to see what skills are in demand for those positions and focus your free time on that to learn those specific skills.
Yeah, that's definitely a super important one. So I'll give you like the top 3 personality traits that I personally think help you do awesome in this industry. And so the first, I mean, I'll just list all 3. So really hungry, um, like passionate. So like those 2 kind of feed in together. So hungry and passionate, patient, and then approachable. So what I mean by each of those is with like being hungry and passionate, like wanting to get up every day and learn more about this field, about whatever role you're in. And then with being patient is not being so hungry and passionate that you're not focused on whatever current role or current task you have at hand. So sometimes that's one of the downsides I see with some of my new analysts that come in. They're so passionate, so excited to keep growing and keep learning, but they lose focus on their current role and first just becoming best in the role that they're in right now. So it's important to look to the future, but it's also really important to just make sure that you're doing a solid job in whatever you're doing. So even right now, while you're still finishing up your degree and you're looking to the future, make sure you're focusing on what you're doing now to like exceed whatever goals you have and to excel and to just do a great job. And then the last one, which with being approachable, make sure that you're open to uh, feedback and improvements that people around you are seeing, your peers, management, and just being able to accept that feedback from them and not take it personally, but just be able to grow and learn from it will help you succeed a lot in this industry. And then for technical skills, kind of just adding on to what he said, it's going to fluctuate a lot depending on your particular field of interest, but really attention to detail is one that is super important regardless of which uh, area of interest. So with an analyst role, it's really important that you have that attention to detail as you're looking at potential security compromises for different organizations. Even on the infrastructure side, you've got to pay attention to every configuration that you're doing. And so it really just translates across all of the different landscapes within this industry.
So true. That's my number one. You have to be detail oriented. That's a plus with programming, with everything. So you have to be detail oriented. Like with me with PayPal, they didn't care that I knew cybersecurity. They just knew that I was able to learn and I was able to do things. So willing to learn. And they were saying, be presentable. So we are on Zoom calls. Don't be in your pajamas. Wake up, put some clothes on. And they say come as you are. They don't mean come as you are. Be presentable. Like when you guys get ready for your mock interviews, dress like you're really having this interview. So you got to read and write. I mean, reading is fundamental. It's crazy how some people don't read things, but yeah, like I said, you have to be detail oriented.
Thank you so much. We'll definitely touch a little bit on interviews as well as the presentation. So we're not going to ask the right color of ties, but what I do want to ask is how can students strengthen their resumes at the moment, inside and out of school? And if you guys have examples of specific projects that they might want to pursue during their school time, please share those as well.
It's so funny you say that. I was just talking to my mentee, and she doesn't have any skills because she's still in school. I'm like project management. You project management your family like all the time. You're planning projects. I mean, you're planning events. That's a form of project management. There's things that you do at home that can help you prepare for your resume that you don't even think about. Um, what I do sometimes too is I look at people's LinkedIn profile and see, okay, I can do this. Let me see how I can apply that to my resume. Um, I'm always updating my resume because things change. And then when you're training, when you're in college, you can write down those skills on your resume as well. And then you can put like 0 to 1 years or 6 months experience. Anything is good as long as you have something. And when you're applying for a job, look at those keywords that's on the job description. You can add those keywords to your resume.
So in the last 2 months, I've probably looked at close to 100 resumes. I'm constantly hiring and getting to look over them. So two of the things that I would say really kind of set you apart is putting on there, like has already been mentioned, the projects that you've done. And there's a lot of people coming out of school right now that are looking for jobs, and just having that on your resume is not going to is more often than not is not going to land you an interview somewhere. Just having that, so you need to show what you've done in school that's outside of what's expected to graduate, right? And look at what have you done here, what was your capstone. I mean, even if you haven't graduated yet, just looking at whatever you can from your classes and the skills that you've gained from those to put down on your resume to show that you're passionate, that you're hungry, and that you're willing to learn, but also that you go above and beyond what is expected of you. So that's one thing that you can do to really set yourself apart. And then the second thing is to focus your resume on the particular job that you're applying for, which I know can be a really daunting task, especially when you're looking for a job and you're applying to 20 different places. To have a custom resume, you don't have to get that custom like per company, but at least do it like group it into the role. So if you're looking for an analyst job, you're going to look through the requirements that they say, the skill sets they're looking for, and make sure your resume almost go line by line can answer as many of those skills that it's looking for with a project or with a skill set or with some experience that you've had that has given you that. And that will really help you stand out to show that, hey, this individual has really focused on these particular skills. I think they would be awesome here. Even if you're missing some of the experience for some of the roles that, or some of the requirements that are on there, that's all right. But at least you're showing the ones that you do have, so that that company knows where you kind of are stacked up against your competition.
So I know from teaching here that probably all of you have used ChatGPT on some of your assignments. Use it for your resume, and you can put in a job application or a job posting into ChatGPT and then say, here's my resume. Can you optimize it for this position? And it will help you do that. To gain the skills that you need to put on there, one thing that I always did was have a home lab. So everything I was learning in school at a basic level all the way up to the advanced level, I would then like get out of my class, go home, and then do it at home. And I would do more research into that topic, and I would start, just setting something up, and then I would say, okay, now it's set up. What's the next step? So I would Google that, and I would watch YouTube videos, and you really have to take control of your own skill set, education, and destiny in this field. School is great for the basics, even at the advanced stuff. School is great, but there's so much knowledge out there that you're really a lifetime student in this field. It never stops. So it doesn't have to be the only thing you do. It doesn't have to take over your life. That's what I home lab, do it in there and gain the skills on your own time outside the classroom when you can.
Thank you. And I did want to have a follow up question to make sure that in case this wasn't part of your answers, that you can share it. What are some of the things that you all would have wished to have done during your college time?
Um, in college, let's see. I wish I had taken more time to really understand the reading material, because I know from my own experience and experience teaching, a lot of times the only information that's read is to do the assignment, or the only information that's put in the assignment is what's on the rubric. But if you take the time to go through the entire book and truly understand what's being said, then you're going to have outside the classroom and be able to speak to it in interviews, and that's going to bring you to success by just going that extra mile with the books that you already pay for. So that's definitely worth it, and I think that would have helped me a lot early on in my career by being able to answer those more technical questions on a more in-depth level.
Two of the things that I wish I had done is a home lab. So I didn't do that much while I was here at GCU, and like Anthony said, that is a super important thing to do to boost your resume and gain that experience. So I wish I had done that more. Now with my home lab, I love getting to play around with it. When things break, it causes you to do so much research because you have no one else to go to. You're the one doing it all. So you've really got to learn it and know exactly how it's operating, which has helped drastically. And then the second would be to just be involved in as like a lot of the different groups that exist here on campus. I was just talking to Leo, and him and I actually were in a lot of classes together, and I didn't do a whole lot of the different groups that were on campus. I was still very fortunate to get the roles I did, but those connections and that networking are super valuable. And so, I mean, a lot of you are here, hopefully most of you by choice. And so that's a great step, but continue doing that, continue to going and just getting that exposure to the different groups that exist, and just being able to network with as many people as you can is very valuable.
Ditto to everyone that what you guys said. Home labs, definitely. I didn't utilize that because when I went to college or straight out of high school, and I was ready to party. So I should have did more labs. And the second one is the office hours that the professors have. I wish I would have utilized that as more because I just read it, took my test, and okay, next. So now being in the field, well, back then they didn't even have cybersecurity, but I'm just saying now that you're in the field and that's your hand-on experience that you need to gain.
If I could add on to what Caleb said real quick, the networking. Right. Sorry about that. Networking is so important in this field. That's something that you should definitely be doing early on. This is a really small field, a lot of people. So if you make good impressions on people, then when those connections get into roles, when those connections promote, they're going to remember you, and they're going to say, "Hey, my buddy's hiring. I think you'd be great. I'll send you a referral." Or if you make connections with recruiters, or if you have interviews and you end up not getting the position, you can make a connection with that recruiter and say, "I'm still interested. It was great talking to everybody. Even though I didn't get the position, I appreciate the opportunity." And then the next time they have a role, you can reach out to them and say, "Hey, I saw you had this open. I'm still really interested." And they're going to remember how kind you were, even though you didn't get the role last time, or how kind you were when they first met you. And you're going to have a much better opportunity the second time.
Yeah, second that. The groups you guys have on campus, join all those groups. If it's technology, join it. They have women in data. They have women in cybersecurity. They have different things that you guys can join. Even on LinkedIn, they have a lot of groups too. They have a lot of conferences too that you guys can join too to network with people. Because I just moved here from Southern California, so I'm just making my connection with the people in technology.
So just with a show of hands, how many of y'all are part of a club on campus, a tech club on campus? Okay, not too many. So the rest of y'all are missing out. So learn more about those clubs. So some of the clubs that might be in the house, can we hear the name of the club? No one's part of their club. Okay. So I know we have the IT club. We have women that code. Any other ones? We have an AI club. AI club. Any other clubs? Software development committee. So look, what's the best way to search them? Do we have them on Instagram somewhere? So if you guys go to the CC website or the CC Discord, you guys can find more information about those clubs because those would be great opportunities. So now I've been asking questions all this time. So now about questions that the students are going to get during interviews. Again, to that coin, I know two of y'all Googled it. We checked the resource. So what are some of the red flags that employers might be looking to interview? Sorry for the attendance, right? The candidates that are showing its interviews, but also at the same time, what are some of the red flags that candidates should watch out for when they're being interviewed by the companies? So, quick tip, if you are not asking questions during your interview, you're making a mistake. You want to make sure that they win you over as much as they might win you over. So, what are some of the questions again, the red flags that they should be looking out for when they're interviewing, and what are some of the red flags they should look out for those who are interviewing them?
I always tell people when you're interviewing the company as well. So when I'm interviewing you and I ask you about my company and you don't know anything about the company, that tells me you didn't do your homework, and so you're not interested in the company. So that's one red flag. Um, when you're interviewing and you don't know a topic, it's okay to say you don't know it. And if you lie and you BS about it, we're going to continue to ask you those questions, and then you're going to bomb the interview. So if you don't know the question, just say you don't know it, and just don't BS us in the interview.
One of the biggest red flags that I look for is definitely the lack of knowledge of my company, and then number two would be someone who's just not like present for the interview. So even still after COVID, we're still doing Zoom interviews for the first round most of the time, and even there, I'll have a lot of applicants that can't make eye contact during the interview. They're glancing down the whole time. I've even had some that I can tell they're Googling answers during the interview. And that is definitely a huge red flag. I would much prefer you to say, hey, I don't know the answer to that. Here's my best guess. Or I don't know, but I would love to hear what your explanation of that answer is. And just being honest during that. So that would be my biggest red flag of a candidate. And then as you're interviewing companies, one of the flags would be just kind of getting a feel for what their expectation is. If they don't seem to have a defined expectation for what you need to do in the role, that is a big red flag, because you want to know going in what are their expectations of you so that you can exceed them, and or at least meet them, right? And if they don't have defined expectations for you, it's going to be very hard, and then you're going to find yourself struggling to know exactly what you need to do, and it's going to open you up for being able to be unfortunately fired a lot easier, because they don't have a defined expectation for you, and so they can easily just come and say, hey, you didn't meet our expectations, but then you're going to be on the other side saying, I didn't know what they were. So trying to get an idea of what those expectations are from that company during the interview is super important. One of the best questions to ask is ask them what their plan is for you for their 30, 60, 90 days. Any good company should have an idea of what you should, what criteria you should already meet at 30 days, 60 days, and 90 days. They should already have that defined. And if they're not able to answer that for you, that's definitely a red flag.
Just for the record, I got my job at Boeing after telling them I was Googling answers. But I was honest about it. I wasn't trying to hide it. You know, employers really don't want someone who thinks that they're a know-it-all. You have to be teachable. So a big red flag for the interviewer is if if you seem like you're not going to ask for help, if you seem like you're not going to work well in a team, if you answer questions in a way that make it seem like you're always the hero, or that you don't get along with people, or that you have a lot of confrontation, those are pretty big red flags. Um, as far as employer red flags, I wrote down some phrases here that you want to watch out for. If your interviewer says they want someone who's going to hit the ground running, they likely don't have a good training program. So they're going to throw you to the wolves with little training, little knowledge, little documentation, and expect you to be a high performer. If they say, we're like a family, they're probably going to overwork you, because companies aren't your family, right? You can have a good time. And if they say, oh, yeah, we like to joke around and have a good time, that's great. But if they use the phrase, we're like a family, or we have family values here, that's a pretty big red flag. I always ask the question, what problems are you going to expect me to solve? If they don't have an answer to that, then they're not paying very good attention to their team. And so you're likely not going to get the attention from your manager to grow at that point. So I'd say that's another red flag. And last, if anybody on the interviewing team laughs at you or makes a snide comment because you don't know an answer, it's a very toxic team, and you might as well just walk out of the room right then.
Thank you very much. So one thing that I wanted to ask too, because we want to make sure that we find out what it is that is fun. So in your current positions, or if it has to be a past position, go ahead and bring it up. But what is one of the coolest things that you've ever done in your positions?
I don't know if it's the coolest, but it's definitely the funnest. The first time I learned how to force reset someone's passwords, It makes a great prank for your coworkers. Every now and then, 6 months, 3 months, make it random, just force reset, and they'll be like, "What is going on here? Why does this keep happening?" The funnest thing you can do.
For me, I would say it was probably as an analyst, getting to find live ransomware inside of an organization and quickly be able to stop it. It definitely gets the blood pumping, as you know, like, hey, if I don't do this quick enough, this could move laterally across the network. It could start spreading to other systems. And so knowing you're under that time crunch to basically catch it before the client does, since we're a managed services, and so wanting to get that escalation over to them, get that computer contained as fast as possible, call the client, let them know exactly what's going on. That's probably one of the most exciting things that I've gotten to do as an analyst.
Mine was or is since I'm in cybersecurity and ours is physical security. So we just put out this policy to have everybody lock their workstations when they leave their desk. And if you don't, if I'm around, I'm gonna do something. So it's kind of fun and kind of cool to mess with them because you gotta lock your workstation when you leave your desk because get information's on there.
Yeah, so I had also worked at the help desk, and we actually had one of the full timers make a script when someone left their computer unlocked, and it would switch the contrast. The menu bar was somewhere else. The mouse was inverted. The background was our manager when they were playing basketball. It was a lot of great stuff. So before moving forward with the specific questions, I wanted to ask: do you have any additional advice or takeaways that we haven't covered just yet?
Yes, I do have one thing. Everybody should know that the economy right now is awful. We all know it, and unfortunately, technology feels that the most. Um, when the economy is bad and when businesses aren't doing very well, unfortunately, tech and specifically cyber is seen as a burden to a budget instead of as an asset like we are. So we're the first people to get laid off, and in the last 2 years, there's probably been over 100,000 employees laid off in the U.S. alone in technology specifically. So my advice is to stay tough when you're applying for jobs, especially entry level jobs. It may take a long time. I think the tech economy is starting to bounce back right now, but it might still take a while. So just because you're not getting interviews in the first couple months, just because you get rejection email after rejection email and it's just an automated thing, don't give up, because at some point someone's going to take a chance on you. And so you're always going to remember that company, you're always going to remember that manager, and you're going to be very, very happy that you didn't give up.
Yeah, that's awesome advice. Kind of with that, if you find yourself in another job before getting into a cyber role, find aspects of that job that can help prepare you for the role you want in cyber. So many different careers out there have skill sets that people develop that make them amazing analysts or amazing architects. And a lot of people don't think of that at the time. They think it's that cyber is a completely different career field. But even coming from my law enforcement background before coming back to cyber, one of the biggest aspects of being a police officer is report writing. And it's the most boring part, but it's super important. And developing that skill and being able to write stuff in a way that I could reference it 3 years later under oath in court and be able to remember everything that happened during that call develops like a skill in you to be able to analyze and document your findings super well. So being able to articulate that in my interview of, hey, this is what's prepared me from my previous experience to be an exceptional candidate is super important. And then like Anthony mentioned earlier, this is such a small like industry. Everybody knows everybody. So don't burn bridges. If you find yourself at a company and you need to leave for whatever reason, don't burn bridges just for the sake of burning them. If it's a bad environment, you got to leave. That's a different story. But you got to leave the best that you can, because people are going to talk. They're going to know your name. When I'm looking at a candidate, I ask everybody, hey, have you worked with this person before? Do you know them? Do you know anybody who has? I look at them on LinkedIn, see if I have any connections, because I want to know who that person is more so than I want to know what their experience is, because I can teach the experience, but I can't teach some of the soft skills that we've already talked about.
What I did when I first moved out here, when I got laid off from PayPal, I Googled the top 100 companies in Arizona. And then from there, I looked and see if I knew anyone on LinkedIn. And then from there, I looked and see if they were hiring. And then I also started my networking of meeting people and networking with people. It's all about who you know. Sometimes it's not what you know, it's who you know.
Thank you very much. So we're going to move forward to some of the more specific questions that we had prepared. The first one being, what does a typical project timeline look like for your company?
I can go ahead and start this one. So, being a global company, it can be a very slow process. Trying to work across basically 3 or 4 different time zones and find time where we can all meet at the same time, basically limited between like 6 a.m. and 9 a.m. Arizona time to be able to meet with all the different teams. So that's 3 hours of time that we can actually spend working on a project. So it can move really slow. But when there's a big issue that's going on that we really need to address quick, that project timeline can get sped up really fast because now the problem of the time zones is used to our advantage because we can work on it 24/7. And so it really dictates based off of the urgency of the project, but it also makes it, really exciting and fun trying to deal with that.
It all depends on the project. Right now, I have two major projects that we're working on. One of them, we're upgrading our software system, and we have to upgrade that for 100 sites. So that's going to be at least over a year because we have to migrate the data as well. We have another project that we're upgrading our MSP, our service provider, and that's going to take a long time because same thing because we got to do the hardware, the software. We got to so it's that's a year-long project. So just depending on what project it is and how long it's going to take. And sometimes it can be longer than that because sometimes projects get pushed back. So
Yeah, a lot of this is going to depend on the type of company that you're in. My company, Boeing, is obviously very global. So projects can take longer than a year, sometimes as short as a week. When something breaks, I mean, that's going to be more incident response, but that's obviously going to be fixed as fast as possible. We do get woken up for some things. Just because your team's not doing a project doesn't mean another team isn't. And sometimes those projects break something and it affects your team's stuff. And so all of a sudden you get woken up at 2 in the morning. So yeah, it really varies. But generally, if you have a solid leadership team, the delegation of your projects should be very efficient. And so, a team of 10, you might have 4 different projects that your team is split up on to be able to cover those in a reasonable amount of time.
So to kind of follow up with the ending of your answer, how do project collaborations work within your team? So how do you work? How do your teams look like where you're working? And maybe if you can talk a little bit as to what cross departmental relations look like as well, that might be important, especially in cyber or anything tech.
Yeah, we normally don't know what we're doing until we start doing it. Um, every time you make a change in technology, that you're going to break something else is pretty high. So a lot of times the collaboration starts with a lot of planning, and a lot of times we just brainstorm, we just toss around ideas, we see what's going to work the best, what the best path forward is. We're also going to consider the client or the customer's needs or the stakeholders needs or whatever this is going to affect, whoever's going to either get the benefits or get the negative impact of it. So we have to decide if this thing is even possible to do, because sometimes it's not, and then what the best path forward is, how much is it going to cost, and is it safe? Can we legally do this? Is it going to harm anybody if this goes sideways? Is this going to harm the economy, the company, another country? Is it going to hurt diplomatic relations? There's a lot that goes involved, especially if you're in a global company that does business with higher risk companies like Russia, China, um, places like that. So it it's a very in-depth experience, but the collaboration should always be very friendly, very open, and not just one person leading it. So you have to find your voice to have these collaboration talks.
So the majority of projects that I'm involved in are either to improve the day-to-day life of my analysts or to improve the quality of service for our clients. So the collaboration is super important because for my team, we have so many others that are responsible for providing the tools that we use. So we're working with Microsoft and other vendors like Logarithm, CrowdStrike. And so we have some collaboration with them. But then even just internally, we've got our DevOps teams, we've got our infrastructure, our engineering teams, we've got our detection engineering team who are writing the detections that we're actually triaging. So it's really important to have those relationships and get to know the people in the different teams so that you can approach them and ask them for help when you need it, or just ask them to take over the project if it's something that's outside of your realm of knowledge, and then just ask them to help lead you through that and show you how to do it. And so that collaboration is super important. And then even with clients, it's really important to have that relationship and that ability to collaborate with them to find out what is not working for them that you can improve on your side to help provide them a better service.
Yeah, with the project, it's crazy because we have our PMO team, and they usually don't know who to get involved. And half the time, we get involved at the last minute. We're like, wait a minute, we need X, Y, and Z. So now we're trying to get ahead of that and make sure that we have IT involved so that we can go through the project and make sure everything gets done properly. Sometimes the business owners doesn't know that they need to contact us until sometimes it's too late. So we're coming up with that process to make sure that anything new, contact us first instead of anything new. We'll create a change for it and let's get a PMO and let's get a project for it instead of last minute.
So, now, do any of your designs or products from your projects need to go through any compliance or any quality assurance processes? I'm sure the answer is yes. So, how do these processes impact your workflow?
I'm working with legal right now to do this statement of work. I'm going back and forth with this contract because we have to have certain things said and they want certain things said and we want to make sure things get done. Um, we just hired a compliance officer, so we're working with compliance now because there's some things that's not compliant with SOC 2, and we want to make sure, okay, this is not compliant. So I'm working with the risk team. Like, okay, you guys are going to assume this risk. So compliance, risk, legal, it's a big part of my day to day.
So no offense to Sherry, but I am super thankful that I don't have to do much of that. So a lot of the things that are done by the company, uh, like there is a lot of the compliance and even getting patents and stuff like that that goes into play into the services we offer. Thankfully, since my team is just the one who's carrying out the actions and the services, we don't have to do it as much. So I have never been one that loves the compliance and the policy side. We need those people so much, though. So I'm very thankful for Sherry and like people like her who are interested in that field. But really, for us and looking at some of the compliance and the quality assurance, it's just mostly making sure for me that my team is providing a good service to our clients, that the events that they're working and triaging are accurate, and that their analysis is accurate, and that they're not missing true positive alerts, that they're not missing compromises. And so even in my role, that QA process is super important to ensure that we're not missing the next 0 day that a company is seeing.
Everything is supposed to be done by a compliance standpoint. That's not always the case. Mistakes are made, and sometimes a small change ends up turning into a much bigger deal. But yeah, I mean, everything should be looked at from a legal and compliance standpoint. If you do something that violates the law or that is ends up being responsible for a breach, then the FCC can come in and sue the company. And then who gets blamed for it? Well, of course, you're going to get blamed for it. You're on the security team. So it can damage public trust. It can damage the trust with the government. It damages the company's reputation. the FCC can fine the company hundreds of thousands or sometimes millions of dollars. And we do go over a lot of that case law in some of my classes specifically, but um, yeah, you have to be able to tell people no when it comes to other teams asking you for things that aren't in compliance as well, or that wouldn't be legal, or that wouldn't protect the company just because these people want to make something easier for their team. I get it, but yeah, everything you do has to be looked at from that perspective, because even though we're cybersecurity, we're really security in general. We need everything to be safe. We always need to think about the threat to life, the threat to property, the threat to data. So those are kind of our biggest concerns, and we have to be compliant with the law and with industry standards as we do it.
Yeah, our compliance department didn't understand why PCI was so important. And PCI is payment card information. And if we're not compliant, MasterCard and Visa would charge us for not being compliant. It's like, oh, now you're costing us money. Yeah, now I got your attention. Yeah, this is important. We need to get this compliant like every quarter. So,
So we're going to be running out of time pretty shortly, and I want to make sure that we get some questions from the audience. So, anyone have any questions? Raise your hand. We have a microphone.
Do you guys find your job rewarding? And if so, is there a specific time when you can kind of give an example of what that was like?
Yeah, so it's definitely, I had to kind of adjust my expectations of to what I found rewarding. Because as an analyst, it was pretty easy to have the understanding that I'm protecting these companies, some water plants, oil industries. Like we had some big clients that could shut down entire cities if they got compromised. And so it's easy to find reward there. Uh, Transitioning to the management role is a little bit more difficult because I'm not the one doing the actual analysis anymore. And so for me, where I really find it rewarding is being able to help bring people into the industry that are just starting out and being able to see them really flourish and grow, and just develop a lot of skills that they didn't originally have. And so I've gotten to see a lot of the analysts who have started that I got to help train that have now gone on to different levels within the company, and that is super rewarding to me to see that the investment that I made in this person is paying off.
Yeah, I would definitely second that. A lot of times, this field, you're always the bad guy. You're always the one that's blocking YouTube and whatever else, and so it's a fairly thankless job a lot of times outside of your own team. So when you are able to be a mentor, bring someone else into the team, be a part of an internship program or an apprenticeship program, or even teach and help students or do events like this, that's really the best part of the job, because that's the time that you really get to see the impact of your help. Because a lot of times we're just behind a computer and we're not on the shop floor with all of the other employees in the company seeing our results. We just see it on a digital screen, and yeah, we know what it means, but helping people is always the best reward, in my opinion.
yeah, I have like an outlook, like notes of things I need to do. And I check off my list every day. Okay, I did this, I did this. And then the next day I say, okay, go back and do this. When I'm able to check these things off, it's very rewarding that I actually accomplish things. Because sometimes we help people and sometimes we don't. Because at my new job, I didn't make any new friends because they don't want to reset their password. I'm like, okay, I'm trying to help you. So,
Yeah, thank you. Any other questions? Back.
How do you guys manage your work-life balance, especially when things get particularly stressful? You feel like you have to keep up with everything you're learning. Yeah, how do you manage that?
Honestly, it can be difficult sometimes. Um, you have to understand that when the day is done, the day is done. Turn your phone off, turn your laptop off, um, take your time. And when a company offers PTO, don't just bank up your PTO consistently. Like you should have a small bank for emergencies or for bigger trips that are planned, but take your time. When you get a federal holiday off, take a couple extra days on top of it because you're getting that extra day or two for free paid, like Thanksgiving and the day after. So, yeah, it's really just about paying attention to how much you're working and taking the time so you don't get burnt out.
Yeah, I would definitely second that. Being the ops manager, I'm basically on call 24/7. And so trying to make sure that I still find time to be able to shut things off and focus on my family is super important. And like you said, that PTO is one of the best ways to do that.
That's another good thing when you're looking for a company. Make sure you talk about work-life balance because that's important. Like I tell my team all the time, I'm like, I need to go home and cook. We can finish this tomorrow. I was like, is this urgent? What is my priorities? So you got to make it known. PTO, yeah, definitely take your PTO. Like with me, when I'm driving in the morning, I'm making phone calls. So by the time I get in the office, I'm taking care of things. But you have to, you know, come up with a balance.
Have you ever done a project you regretted? And if so, what did you do to fix it?
I don't think I've done a project that I regret, as in the outcome was bad. I think that I volunteered for projects that I wish I had not volunteered for because of the sheer amount of work that was involved. Sometimes you think, okay, I'll be able to get this done in 10 minutes, and then it turns into like a 6-week ordeal. And then, there's a lot of other times where you get involved with a project that is not the best path forward, but when you don't speak up, I think I always have regrets about that. Like with AI integration being a big thing in companies now, AI is not always the best way forward, and a lot of times it could just be a waste of money if you don't have a plan for it. So just because someone offers it doesn't mean it's worth it. So I would say not being able to speak up or sometimes volunteering for the wrong project when I know I'm not going to have the time to do it right, those probably be the biggest regrets.
Yeah, I pretty similar. I don't think I've really had one that I regretted doing. It's more so I regretted not speaking up. Something went wrong. It put extra burden on my team because we just didn't understand the impact, and so being able to quickly identify what needs to be reversed or what we need to do to move forward from that is the best thing that I could do at that point is just to help fix kind of the problem that occurred after that.
Remember when I said earlier, least restrictive? When everyone have admin rights, they want to do whatever they want, whenever they want. So without change management, things happen, and then we don't know what happens. So that's when I came up with least restrictive. Like if you don't need access to this, then we're gonna knock it off. So you won't be downing our servers when it's not supposed to be down. So
You guys talked about interviewing people. What's one interview that stood out to you more than like everyone else?
Probably the candidates who ask really good questions. And it's not always technical questions, it's questions that really let me get to know that individual. And ones who are just really passionate, who have shown research in the company, they show that they have been doing projects, they've been involved in different groups. And, the ones who really show that they're willing to learn and do whatever it takes to excel in that role are definitely the ones that stand out the most to me.
The very specific one that stood out to me was a coworker of mine. His name is Keena. I was his mentor in the Boeing Cybersecurity apprenticeship program. It's kind of like an internship, but it's longer, high level, that type of stuff. But he was just blowing everything out of the water with his charisma and his thoughtfulness and hunger to learn. And now, I mean, he's the go-to guy on the team now, and so he was the right choice because when you're always willing to help, then we know that you're dependable. And based on answers in his interview and everything, he seemed like just an incredibly dependable person. So that should be a key takeaway. Make yourself, be dependable. Make yourself look dependable, and really sell yourself in those interviews.
I love it when someone answers a question and not just answer the question with a life experience leading up to that question.
So we want to thank everybody for your time. To our panelists, thank you all very much for being here, sharing your knowledge. To everyone that participated and attended, thank you very much. If you were dragged in here, thank you for being draggable, I guess. We want to thank the CCE for setting the space up as well. So again, Big round of applause for our panelists.